Rick Hermann. Rick and his wife Cheryl have been jewelers for 4 years. They're 3-diamond designers. Rick is a pastor at the First Baptist Church in Greensboro, Georgia. They have 3 kids with a 4th on the way, so they have a lot going on. But talking with Rick, one of the things he's come to realize over the years is what a gift Premier has been to Cheryl and their family. And if you're new, you may not realize that right now, but just because you don't yet doesn't mean that you won't soon. So Rick is to talk to you about this gift that Premier can be to you and your family. So help me welcome Mr. Rick Hermann.
Well, good morning, men. Good morning. I'm so honored to have an opportunity to speak to you this morning. How do you follow Andy Horner? We love you, Andy. We love you, Tim. Thank you guys for all you do. What I want to say to you this morning is very simple. I want to tell you, Premier is a gift. That is the basis of everything I want to say this morning. Is simply that Premier is a gift. And I want to challenge you on how you think of that gift of Premier. And so I want to talk to you about 4 stories this morning, and then I want to ask you 3 questions. And I'm a pastor, so I'm going to use some points, okay? I want to talk to you about underwear, remote control cars, and my wife, a bow and arrow. Okay? We're going to talk about those things, and then I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And I want to challenge you this morning to think about the gift of Premier in your life. And as we do that, let me just give you a thought. How you think about a thing determines the usefulness of that thing. Let me say that again. How you think about something usually determines the usefulness of that thing. Now, you all know this to be a very simple, true fact. How you think about a thing determines the usefulness of the thing. For instance, if you do not play golf, I am not a golfer. If someone came up to me and gave me a $1,500 set of golf clubs, it would be largely useless to me because I'm not a golfer. And so how I think about that thing largely determines how useful that thing is. I want to tell you that how you perceive Premier will largely determine how useful Premier is in your life and family. And so how you look at it will determine your wife's success in a lot of ways. One thing I learned very early on, this is my 3rd or 4th rally, as I was looking at the senior leaders, the executive directors, those men and women that my wife looked up to as superstars. The first year I was here, I was really nervous, didn't really care to be here, to tell you the truth. So some of you guys are feeling that way today. That's okay. You're wondering, what kind of Kool-Aid did my wife drink to get into this group of people here? What have I gotten into? Well, that's why you're here today, so we can talk to you a little bit about that. I want you to know that might be a normal feeling. But one thing I noticed right off is that the most successful jewelers were not so much just women, but you recognize they were families. If you think about the 2 top folks in the company, if you think about the Drapers and the Terrells, it's always Greg and Randy and their wives. And I've always noticed that, and I've always thought, to be really successful, it might be better to help my wife out in this. Now, women can succeed in this business without their husbands. Let me tell you, it is so much easier for them to have your support. And so as we're thinking about that, let me just tell you a little bit about my Premier journey. So let's talk about the gift of Premier. Let's talk about gifts a little bit. How many of you like to receive gifts? Okay, all right. I want you to get a little interactive with me here this morning. I know you're kind of getting tired, so here we go. I want you to say, Premier is a gift on 3. 1, 2, 3. Premier is a gift. Okay, now the rest of you, I want you to say it as well. You alpha males out there on 3. Okay? Premier is a gift. 1, 2, 3. Premier is a gift. All right, y'all are getting a little better. So first of all, let's talk about underwear. Can you remember when you were 5 years old at Christmas? I have a 5-year-old boy now, and I get so frustrated as a parent because grandparents and aunts and uncles spend enormous amounts of money on presents to make my child happy. And many times they'll open that gift, and nothing makes a parent's heart hurt worse than when your kid gets a gift that someone has invested time and money in, and they go, oh, I don't want that. But I remember being 6 years old, and there was one thing I hated getting more than anything else at Christmas: underwear. Underwear. Can you guys identify with that? I mean, when you're 6 years old, you want toys and you don't want underwear. And so when I would get underwear, I would kind of be like, oh, really, Mom? Underwear? At least make them Scooby-Doo. I mean, come on. And as you get underwear, when I started out this journey in Premier, this is how I looked at Premier. It was a gift that I really didn't want. And as we talk about Premier, I think that's really funny because Tim basically just said the same thing. It was a gift that he was not expecting, a gift that he really didn't see in his future. And when I got that gift of underwear, my wife said to me basically the same thing that Andy said to Tim. She pulled the God card. Ooh, now I'm a pastor. And so when she pulls the God card, I listen. And so my wife one night got invited, like many of your wives did, to a jewelry party. I didn't know anything a jewelry party was. I had no idea. We didn't have any, she was a nurse. I was a pastor. We were doing pretty well. We didn't have any real concerns. And so I did what most good husbands do. On her way out, I said, don't spend more than $25. And so she comes back, and like most good wives do, I think she spent $75 to $100. So she's a good submissive pastor's wife. And then she says to me these words that kind of made my heart drop. She says, I think I want to sell jewelry. Any of you guys heard that in your homes? Yes, that was a lot of fun. And so I said, you are crazy. First of all, when I thought about direct sales, I had a very negative taste in my mouth, like maybe many of you do. When you think about direct sales, I thought about some pushy person that wanted to sell you some juice that you did not want to drink, okay? and being in the ministry, I had seen some negative direct sales, and so it was something that I really did not want. I told my wife, I'm like, I don't really want you to do this. And then she told me that it costs money to get in. And I said, well, this is not something I really want you to do. And then she said, Rick, I believe God wants us to get in this business. God, what are you talking about? This is a jewelry business. And she said, you wouldn't believe how they support missions. I'm like, no, they just tell you that to get you in. And so, I told her no, and once again, like most submissive wives do, a few days later, she had some ladies in there signing the paper, and they talked to me. They said, Rick, would you like to know what your wife's getting into? And I said, well, to be real honest, no, I really don't want to know. And I told my wife, I said, just promise me that you will make our investment back. And if you do that, then it will be okay. And so, to be real honest, when I started Premier, I thought about it as underwear, something I really didn't want. But let me tell you what, the gift of Premier changed in my life, and it can in your life too. So the next gift that I received was a remote control car. When I was about 7 or 8 years old, I remember opening a remote control car for Christmas, and I was pretty excited, but I was cautiously excited. Why? Because I saw the price tag on it. It was one of those Dollar General remote control cars that says $5, and it said on the back those beautiful words, made in China. And so as I looked at that, I thought, wow, this is going to be fun, but I know it won't last through the day. And so as I played with that toy, I understood this is kind of exciting, but it's probably not going to last through the day. And that's what Premier became next in my life. I started to change a little bit. Some things started to happen with my wife and I. She actually started bringing home some money. And, lots of us guys, we start paying attention when money starts coming in. And she paid off her degree. She finished her bachelor's degree. She paid that off all through Premier and through home shows. She paid for Christmas one year for all of our families. She paid for the vacation we went on. All these things were added money that I didn't really even know she had or was making. And so my mindset began to change just a little bit. And then, once again, my wife, she challenged me. Well, those wives, they're a blessing, aren't they? And she said, I want you to go to a Premier men's retreat thing. And I said, no. And once again, I am the king of my castle, so I went to the men's thing. And, but my perception in my mind, for some reason, now I'm sorry, I hope this isn't offensive to some of you guys this morning, but when I was thinking about men's jewelry thing, in my mind I had this idea of men in yellow Volkswagen Bugs wearing skinny jeans that had lace on their Levi's and were drinking tea and speaking with a lisp. I don't know why. But for some reason I thought that if you had something to do with jewelry, then you were not a manly man. Oh, manly man. I like to hunt and kill things and do those kind of things. I really didn't want to be around those kind of guys. This was the perception in my mind. Jewelry equals not a manly man. And it was at Kelly Stewart's house. Sorry, Kelly, if that's offensive to you. But I got there and I found out, hey, this is just a bunch of guys like me that don't want to be here either. And they had good food and they gave away free stuff. So I said, I can listen. And my mindset about Premier started to change a little bit. When they told me about what the company was about, and they told me about how it was biblically based and all these things they gave, and they started talking about the way the company worked, and all those things, I was cautiously optimistic. And so as I continued on, the next gift that became in my life was something far different. The greatest gift I've ever received in my life, apart from my relationship with Jesus Christ, was the gift I received on May 21st, 2005. You guys remember that gift when you saw that gift? Mine was wrapped up in white, and she had a bow on top of her head that they call a veil. And, man, when I received that gift, that was like no other gift I had ever received. And as they walked that gift down the aisle, I remember the pastor saying to her father, "Who gives this woman to be married to this man? Who gives this woman?" And I realized that I was receiving the most precious thing my father-in-law had. I was receiving his daughter. And boy, that's the gift that keeps on giving. Let me just tell you, that was the favorite gift I ever unwrapped in my life. I mean, praise the Lord. My wife's the one that's under the table right now. So it was boy, it's the gift that keeps on giving. You know, we have 3 children. We have a 4th one on the way, and she's just been such a blessing to me and such a blessing to my life. And she continues to bless me and encourage me and be such a wonderful example to me. And as I thought about that, you know, that is what Premier has become in our family. It's become something so much more than just a little jewelry business. In fact, we believe that Premier is part of our calling now. We believe that Premier, God has given us this not so much to make money, although that money is a good thing, but to invest in other people. We believe that Premier is a vehicle that God has given our family in order to help other people. You know, the first rally I came to, I don't care so much about jewelry, and women really make me nervous, but when I saw all those women, I thought one thing: most of those women have husbands. You know, I would love to try to invest in those men somehow one day. And it has become in our lives such a blessing. We've been able to give more than we've ever given because of Premier. We've been able to go on trips that we thought we would never be able to go on. We've been able to do such amazing things that God has brought about in our lives through this company called Premier. And so I want to challenge you this morning as you're thinking about Premier. Where are you? Do you feel like Premier is underwear in your life? I mean, is it something you just don't understand? I want you to ask a lot of questions while you're here. This is what you're here for. Find out about this company. Is it a remote control car? You're kind of figuring things out. Or is it a wedding dress? Is it that gift that keeps on giving? Let me give you 3 questions as I close. I don't want to go over my time here. Here's 3 questions I want you to walk away with when you're considering Premier as a gift. Number 1 is this: how am I being a jerk? How are you being a jerk to your wife? Here's what I want you to do: stop it. Every single guy in here is there. What's he calling me a jerk for? Because you are. Even Mr. Happy to Do It, I read his book. And he says he has jerk stories in there. We all are jerks from time to time. Ask yourself this morning: how am I being a jerk to my wife? How am I hindering her instead of helping her? Stop it. Maybe you need to go apologize to her. Second question is this: how can you change your questions? As a man, when your wife goes out to a show, don't ask her, when you get home, don't ask her, how much money did you make? Don't ask her questions like that. Say, baby, how can I serve you? Ask her new questions. Ask her questions that will encourage you. The third question is this: how can I better serve you? Ask yourself that question. And how can you better serve your wife? What can you do that will honor and serve your wife? As I leave this morning, let me just say one more thing. Let me tell you about the bow and arrow. When I was 13 years old, I begged my parents for a bow and arrow. And I got a beautiful compound bow, and I was going to slaughter many deer with it. And as I got that bow and arrow on Christmas morning, I went out and shot it all day. It was a lot of fun. And then I put that bow and arrow in my parents' closet. I never used it again. You know, that bow and arrow could have killed many a deer. It could have slayed many a deer. But I went back home this last Christmas, and I was looking at my dad's closet. And up in the top, with dust collected all over it, was a bow and arrow. You see, it was a very valuable gift that my parents had given me, and I completely wasted. God has entrusted you, men, with a very valuable gift called Premier. How you perceive Premier will ultimately determine the usefulness of Premier. So I want you to see Premier as a gift and use that gift to the glory of God. Thank you, man.
Tom Allen, come up this way. You know, when you guys come in to premiere, every guy that comes in has one thing in